Greetings from the apocalypse. So today we're going to talk a little bit about sizing rings. Sizing rings is not the kind of thing that like I'm doing all the time, but every now and then you need to do it. So I'm going to show you how. So to show you why I'm sizing a ring, for example, many years ago, my client Mia got married and I made her husband this engagement ring. It had two little black diamonds in it. Now she's decided that she doesn't wear her engagement ring. So she kind of wants a new engagement ring that matches her husband's. So she texted me and was like, you know, do you still have it? And I look through my drawers and lo and behold. So the first piece of useful advice that I will give you, if you're doing any casting and anything like that, always make a metal model of your piece in silver or brass or just something and stick it in a drawer, because molds don't last forever. Sometimes they last 10 years or 15 years, which seems like a long time, right? And then it's like, let me just tell you, if you don't know yet, that goes by in a blink of an eye. And one day, all your beautiful molds sitting on a shelf, they kind of just like, melting isn't even a gross enough word for what happens. They just sort of disintegrate in this pile of horrifying goo. So molds don't last forever. So always remember, in a drawer, so every single thing that I've ever cast, and I don't cast a huge amount of stuff, but every now and then there's stuff that's better for casting than for straight up fabricating. So you make a metal model and stick it in a drawer and you keep it, because then when your client contacts you many years later and says, oh, I want a ring, you know, just like that, but just a different size, you can just size it and you know you'll have a perfect match. So that's basically what we're gonna do. So I'm gonna show you how to decide how much I remove from here to get the ring to fit. Okay, so now my next step is to find out what size this ring was, because it's been so long ago that I made it, I have no idea. So I checked it on a ring manual and I wrote it down. It's 8.5. Now Mia needs a 6 3/4. So how do I figure out how much of this to remove? Let me show you. So first of all, there's this book called The Jeweler's Bench Reference. It is written by Harold O'Connor. I'm sure we'll have it on our website, but I mean, this is generally available pretty much any place that has jewelry books. So this is not, the bench reference is really about useful facts and figures. Like you can look up in here, like what the hardness is of all the most common gemstones. You can look up the formula in here for how to figure out a cone around something. Like it has, you know, all kinds of facts and helpful bits of information that I need to go to for things like this. So on page, I believe 11, we will go to the chart, which is, yes, page 11. So it's the table of ring blank lengths. So basically it has a chart that on the one side, right down here, these are all ring sizes. And then going across, depending on the thickness of your metal, it shows you how many millimeters it would take. So in other words, how long of a piece of material do I need to make a size 6 or a size 12 or whatever? And it has, like I said, different columns for thinner metal and thicker metal, because, you know, thicker metal requires more, you know, to make its way around a ring size. So I just go to this chart and I go like, gotta have your glasses on for this one because it's got a little tiny writing. So I go over to the column that has 8.5 and I go across and I'm going to go to around 14 gauge in thickness. I'm just guesstimating, but if this were very, very thin, I would go further across. But I mean, and besides, you know, we're not going to get this down to like a billionth of a millimeter. We're going to get it down to maybe 0.5 millimeter or a millimeter. We'll saw it, we'll solder it together, and then we'll stretch it exactly to fit like just so. So, I mean, it's accurate, but you're not going down to like hyper accuracy because who does? So 8.5, I'm going to go across, and the length required for that is, let's see, 62.8 in millimeters. 62.8. And then I check the size that I want this to be, which is 6 3/4. 6 3/4. It is a fun video, right? To watch me read numbers off of a table. I figured you guys would be excited. 58.4. Okay, so all I need to do then basically is subtract 58.4 from the 62.8, and then I'm going to know the difference between the two. That's the amount in millimeters that I'm going to need to remove from this. Okay? So the difference in length from the 8.5 to the 6 3/4 is 4.4 millimeters. So that's one of the many ways that I can use the information on that chart to figure out how big things need to be. I mean, you can use that. I use it all the time for, like, I need to make a size 7 ring, you know, how much, you know, of my half round wire length do I need in order to be able to do that? It's just a really great way. You check it, you know what your measurement needs to be. Now, again, you know, maybe you're gonna stretch it a hair and you're gonna clean up a little bit, but it gets you, like, you know, right there where basically you just maybe need to tweak it a little tiny bit by stretching it. Okay, so I need to remove 4.4 millimeters. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my dividers and my ruler, and I'm going to set my dividers at 4.4 millimeters, and I'm just gonna mark. I'm gonna pick the best section in here to remove, which is somewhere on the bottom. I did a little kind of like molten and polished kind of a thing here. It looks a little bit shipwrecked, I guess. So I'll find like the best spot to remove, which is usually pretty much on the bottom, but so let me set my little dividers to approximately 4.4, which, like I said, is probably more like about 4.5, but. And I'm just gonna look on here, and I'm gonna put my dividers, and I'm just gonna mark a little line. Just like that. Now, to make it easy to see, because a lot of times I feel like you can mark very accurately with your dividers, right? But then sometimes that line, you're like, I can't fucking see that thing. Like, where is it? So often after I've marked, I'll go back with a Sharpie and make it more easy to see. So in this case, I'm gonna just color in the little section that I'll be removing so you can see. See what I mean? It's just that little pink section there. So I'm gonna saw out, I'm gonna file a little bit if I need to, I'm gonna butt these together, and I'm gonna solder them closed. So basically, that's your basic procedure for, I need to make a ring smaller, like how much do I need to remove to get to that size? You really need this chart. Now, probably, I would imagine if you Googled, this information is probably also just available online. You don't necessarily have to get the book. If you looked up like table of ring blank lengths, I would be very surprised if there weren't like a source for this online. But I usually just go to my trusty little book, got all kinds of useful stuff in it like that, because it, you know, this is the kind of thing, like, are you gonna know this stuff off the top of your head? Like, oh yes, that would be 4.4 millimeters to take it off there. Maybe there are people that know that. I don't fucking know that off the top of my head. I look it up, do the math, and there you go. So I'll show you, I'll take the section out and solder it back together and kind of show you what it looks like. But really the main thing is figuring out the math, like how much do I remove? So I've already done sort of the hard mental part, if you know what I mean. And now I just have to do the hard labor part of sawing it all out. So here's my ring a little more close up so you can actually see. You can see the little section. I marked it off with my dividers, and then I just colored it in with a Sharpie so that I could see what the hell I'm gonna do. So I'm just going to, I'll saw on this side, I'll saw on this side, and then I'll whack it together. Solder it, stretch it round, clean it up, all that kind of good stuff like you normally do. And that way I'll have a ring the size that I want it to be. So that's sort of a relatively quick and dirty tutorial on how you size your rings down. So that's all for today. I'll show you my progress maybe tomorrow.